They sent a message, not to the council, not to the traitors, not to the peacemakers. They sent it to Earth, a call for help hidden in a dying signal, bouncing through the black between stars. The message was simple, one word, please. And for the first time in 100 years, humanity's warfleet moved. Not to conquer, but to answer. It was found by accident. Buried in static, hidden beneath relic telemetry, the signal broke through the edge of the Kuiper Deep Array during a routine dark matter scan. Technician Ada Rios almost dismissed it. It was faint, a whisper at best, a garble of vowels, stretched and smothered by distance. Then came the word, please. She stared at the spectrograph, checked again, cleaned the buffer, ran a phonetic decryption. Same result. Please. A single syllable, broadcast in an alien accent. Desperation encoded in every waveform. She rerouted it to command. Within an hour, the file was sealed, flagged, and escalated. Within a day, it reached Fleet Admiral Anwar Cade. Cade hadn't stood before the Grand Assembly in over 2 decades. He preferred silence, preferred the calm of simulations and war maps that didn't require politics. But when he stood now in the high chamber of Terran Command, every hologram projection of his presence snapped into alert. He didn't open with pleasantries. We received a distress signal, he said. Silence met him, and then a sigh. From the Council? Asked Chancellor Devrin. No. From the Orelli Trade Pact? No. Then who? Cade tapped a control. The room dimmed. The word echoed, raw and unedited. Please, whispers swirled. One representative winced. That's alien, unknown dialect, possibly pre-FTL. Possibly, Cade said, but definitely not hostile. Someone scoffed. And what, you want to respond? Do you know how many fake signals pirates send? How many colonies bait for resources? Cade stared. This wasn't bait, it was grief. And whoever sent it doesn't know Earth will answer. They hoped. We have protocols, Admiral. We have warships, he replied. 2 days later, the first strategic armada, silent for a generation, powered up at the Eridanus line. 11 dreadnoughts, 73 cruisers, 1,000 strike escorts. The launch was quiet. No public broadcasts, no declaration. They weren't going to war. They were going to see, to understand, to witness the face behind a whisper. Aboard the flagship Honorfall, Captain Neira Ishun reviewed the signal loop for the 12th time. She had been selected personally by Cade, plucked from covert reconnaissance to lead the vanguard. Her XO, Lieutenant Greaves, leaned in. It's not council encoded, it's not military, and it's not a trap. You sound certain, because nobody who builds a trap begs like that. Neira closed her eyes. Then we answer. She keyed the helm. All ships, align with Vector, Bravo Tau 7. Prepare for dark space jump. The hull shuddered, the lights dimmed, and Earth's deadliest warfleet vanished into the stars. Far beyond, in a star system whose name no Terran had ever spoken, a world burned beneath violet fire. Its defenders were dead, its cities shattered. But somewhere in the ash of what had been a nursery, a signal beacon still blinked, and it waited. Because someone had said please, and this time someone had listened. Captain Neira Ishun stood in the command ring of the Honorfall, eyes locked on the spiraling dark space tunnel, bleeding starlight across the forward viewport. Her voice was quiet, but final. Deploy recon probes. I want eyes everywhere. Around her, the bridge pulsed to life. Officers moving with precise calm, their uniforms etched with the black and silver insignia of the Terran Strike Command. They had trained for war. But this mission was something else. Behind her, Greaves tapped the hollow interface. Probes launched, scanners sweeping for atmospheric debris and EM wake trails. Still no sign of hostiles. Good, Neira murmured. Let's hope that lasts. Aboard the dreadnought Vigilant Hope, Admiral Cade monitored the fleet formation as it emerged one by one from jump space. His hand hovered over the interfleet channel before he finally keyed it open. This is Cade. Protocol shift enacted. No preemptive strikes. Defensive posture only. Aid first. Judgment later. The doctrine was clear. Earth no longer expanded, no longer ruled. But when called upon, it moved. Not as an empire, as a reckoning. The system ahead was scorched. 3 planets, 1 moon, and a ring of shattered asteroids that had once been a trade corridor. The 3rd planet, dark and cracked, its biosphere bleeding through holes in its magnetosphere, was the origin point of the distress call. Atmosphere is still burning, Greaves said. I'm getting seismic readings. Cities leveled. No active defense grid. Life signs? A long pause. 1, maybe 2, faint, mobile, scattered underground layers. Naira clenched her jaw. Get us close. Send a dropship. Armed but open protocol. We're not just here to rescue. We're here to witness. The Kite's Mercy, a strike corvette retrofitted for deep entry search, descended into the ruined atmosphere. Its hull sang with friction as it pierced the jet stream. Below, the world looked post-apocalyptic. Massive trenches, melted superstructures, black forests turned to ash. Inside, Lieutenant Imri Hahn tightened her grip on her rifle. Any sign of who did this? She asked. Not yet, her pilot replied, but the pattern's surgical. Whoever hit this world didn't want conquest. They wanted erasure. Then they've made a mistake, Imri said, her voice low, because now they've made us remember how to answer. The first survivor was found at the edge of a collapsed comms tower. Small, slender, non-human, 4 arms, translucent skin. Still alive. Imri crouched and opened her helmet. The alien's eyes fluttered open. No translator needed. No full vocabulary exchanged. The being just looked at her and whispered in the same tone the signal had carried. Please. Imri didn't speak. She tapped her comms. Signal command, we have contact, and we have survivors. Back in orbit, Naira stepped toward the main display. She saw the face, she heard the voice. She turned to her bridge. Prepare the relief bay, get medical, linguistics, engineering. This world isn't lost yet. Humanity's doctrine wasn't conquest, wasn't dominance. It was response. And when someone called for help, Earth answered. The surface team's boots sank deep into ash and fractured soil. Lieutenant Imri Hahn led her unit through the remnants of what used to be a city center, now a tangle of scorched pylons and half-melted habitat domes. The wind carried the smell of iron and ozone. There were no birds, no life, just silence that echoed like a scream held too long. Any confirmation on origin? Imri asked, in our visor scanning for movement. Not yet, replied Ensign Tallow, carrying the portable bioradar. The atmosphere is loaded with residue, plasma burns, acidic corrosion, low-yield antimatter flash traces, multiple signatures, not standard council ordnance. Imri narrowed her eyes. So whoever did this came prepared, and they weren't here to make friends. Back aboard the honor fall, Captain Naira Asian stood with arms crossed as the data streamed onto the central holopad, visuals from ground recon, echo scans of the shattered underground, thermal pings. And one image caught her breath, a child's hand, half buried in rubble, curled around a cracked beacon stone still blinking faintly. Greaves swallowed. Ma'am, this wasn't just a war zone, it was a culling. Naira spoke softly. They weren't fighting an enemy. They were erasing a species. In deep orbit, Admiral Cade paced the observation deck of the Vigilant Hope, his voice steel through fleet-wide channels. We came to answer a plea. We found genocide. Murmurs passed through the command rings of dozens of Terran ships. But Cade continued, unwavering. We will not fire until fired upon. But let me make this clear. If the enemy returns, if they show themselves, we will not retreat. We will not stand down. This is not conquest. This is obligation. He turned to his comms officer. Send the doctrine update to command. Tag it. Response priority Sigma. On the ground, the alien survivor stirred beneath medical wraps aboard the forward aid ship Deliverance. Its body trembled, skin pulsing with light beneath the dermal layer. As the translator activated, words came haltingly. Home. Gone. Fire. Everywhere. Imri crouched beside it, voice calm. Who did this? The being struggled, then whispered a name. Not in syllables, but in a frequency so cold it caused shudders to roll through the room. Even the AI interface lagged for a breath. Greaves's voice came through the intercom from orbit. That name just cross-referenced with Black File archives. Sector 22 Nova. Burned 6 systems during the Scourge Wars. Vanished after Council sanctions. Then they're back, Imri muttered, and they chose the wrong time to be. The Gallows Reach, a stealth recon cruiser, pinged its long-range sensors. The echo came back warped but solid. Unidentified vessel entering system vector Theta 7. Stealth coatings, minimal profile. It's watching us. Naira didn't hesitate. Don't engage. Track it. Tag it. If it breathes too loud, I want to hear it scream. Admiral Cade opened a private channel to Earth Command. Begin silent mobilization of Subfleet Orion. We're not alone here, and I don't think we're welcome. From the shadows of extinction, someone had called for help, and now Earth stood on the edge of no return. The moment the stealth vessel breached the inner orbit of the burned planet, contact protocol shifted. What had been reconnaissance became confrontation. The anomaly had a shape now, a long blade-like hull of midnight alloy, running no lights, emitting no signal, and yet it stared. Captain Naira Ishin's voice echoed cold across the bridge of the honor fall. Target acquired. Stealth breaker sweep engaged. Passive locks only. Greaves leaned in over the console. No transponder, no identifiable propulsion signature. Their hull plating is absorbing radar. They want to see us, Naira muttered, but not be seen. The image was patched to Admiral Cade aboard the Vigilant Hope. He examined the footage, expression unmoved. It's not Council design, nor pirate. This is black tech, cloak development, likely from the post-Scourge dissolution. Tech we were promised was dismantled. His comms officer asked quietly, Should we engage, sir? No, Cade replied. Not yet. Let's offer them a chance to lie. Naira keyed into the command channel. Broadcasting contact protocol 0, open channel, multiband translation, full diplomatic courtesy. The transmission blazed across all frequencies. This is Captain Naira Eshin of the Terran Strike Fleet. You have entered a protected humanitarian response zone. Identify immediately or risk classification as hostile. Silence. Then 3 words, cold as vacuum. You shouldn't have. Naira's heart skipped. Source confirmed. It's them, Greaves said. Voice match within 98% of Scourge protocol captains. On the planet's surface, the Kite's Mercy team hunkered down as sensors detected a drone sweep. Defensive posture! Prepare for skyfall! Imri barked, dragging the wounded alien to cover. The horizon cracked with motion, sleek black probes descending like falling razors. But before they could strike, coordinated flak fire from orbit lit the atmosphere. Strike ships from Solace. Cry and Warden's Wheel unleashed anti-drone volleys with surgical precision. Imri grinned through the chaos. Earth heard us. We hold. In orbit, the stealth ship moved. Not away, toward. Its intent was clear. Arm all forward batteries, Naira ordered. Charge rail turrets. Threat confirmed. But before anyone fired, Cade's voice cut through. Belay that. Hold fire. Sir, they're advancing. I know. The Admiral turned toward the vast viewport. Let them come. Let them see what it means to threaten those under our watch. Let them remember why Earth stopped expanding. Not because we were weak, but because we chose peace over dominance. Then, as the ship entered critical range, barely 600 kilometers, the Gallo glass decloaked from deep dark space shadow. It moved like a phantom, massive, silent, heavy with history. The Scourge ship halted instantly. Greaves stared, stunned. It's afraid. Naira's eyes narrowed. Good. Now it knows how it feels. Earth had answered, and Earth would not be ignored. The Gallo glass hovered like judgment itself, silent, unyielding, its hull scarred by 3 centuries of wars Earth had chosen to forget. The Scourge ship, for all its cloaking tech and malice, backed off. But it didn't run. Captain Naira Ishun watched the grid lines stabilizing around the contact. They're holding position, neither advance nor retreat. Greaves nodded slowly. Like predators, circling prey that bit back. She stepped forward. Let them circle, but remind them, Earth bites harder. Admiral Cade stood in the central command chamber of the Vigilant Hope, surrounded by senior fleet captains. The mood was tense yet focused. Strategy was not about reaction, it was about control. Options? He asked. Captain Varon of the Burning Halo answered first. We could alpha strike, full rail cannon salvos. Take out their forward bulkheads before they regroup. Cade shook his head. Too loud, too fast. We're not here to teach fear. We're here to teach consequences. Captain Seelan of the Ashwake leaned in. There's a power signature building in their aft bay. They're charging something. Cade's voice dropped. Then they want us to blink first. We won't. On the surface, the atmosphere trembled. The alien survivor named Tellin by her people sat weak but lucid. Her skin pulsed with faint bioluminescence as she watched Earth's ships orbit above. Imri knelt beside her. We came for your message. Tellin's voice was fragile but clear. We didn't think anyone would hear. Imri gave a small smile. Earth hears the quietest screams. Tellin looked toward the darkening sky. They'll come again. They already did, Imri said, but this time we were waiting. The Scourge ship began to shift, not forward, not away, down. It entered the upper thermosphere, burning trails behind its fins. They're going for the surface, Greaves yelled. Naira spun. They want to finish what they started. She slammed her fist onto the command console. Deploy the spear wall, intercept and engage. No mercy if they breach the line. Within seconds, a shield formation of 10 Terran warships moved into a descending wedge. Rail cannons charged, gravity disruptors locked. Iha! The Scourge ship pushed, just enough to test their nerve. The Honorfall's main gun hummed. Naira stared into the feed. One more inch, and I light the stars with you. The Scourge ship halted, paused, and for a long, breathless moment, the entire system waited. Then it veered. It didn't flee, it didn't dive. It turned away, into deep space. Captain Naira sank into her chair. They'll be back. Greaves stood beside her. Then so will we. And in the quiet that followed, the fleet remained. Because peace wasn't passive. Sometimes peace had a Warfleet watching. In the vast stillness that followed the retreat of the Scourge ship, the Honorfall's bridge felt too quiet. Tension didn't leave. It coiled tighter, ready to spring. The threat had backed off, not vanished, and Earth's fleet knew better than to believe in easy endings. Status on their exit vector? Captain Naira asked, her voice low. Greaves checked. They didn't jump. They're ghosting out. Power signatures at sub-minimal, playing dead in the void. Predator strategy, she muttered. Lurk, bleed the prey, come back later. She looked over the command ring. Well, they picked the wrong system. On the surface, reconstruction had begun, not of buildings but of understanding. The Terran humanitarian units deployed field domes around the shattered remains of the alien capital. They called themselves the Elysians, and the survivors were few. Tellin sat upright now, connected to a linguistic array, her voice translated in gentle harmonic tones. We sent that message not knowing who would hear, she said, looking up at Imri. We had only stories, ancient, fearful ones, of the race from the blue star, the Death Worlders. Imri offered a wry smile. Sounds like us. You came when the galaxy looked away. Imri's reply was soft. That's why we exist. In orbit, Admiral Cade stood before a wide screen showing tactical overlays. Sir, his comms officer reported, multiple new pings in surrounding sectors. Microjumps, not just one Scourge ship, a pattern. Cade's brow furrowed. How many? Unknown, but it's coordinated. They're mapping us. Cade nodded slowly. Time to reopen the Orion Directive. Silent launch of reserve fleets. Full theater reinforcement. And notify the Defense Assembly. They need to understand this isn't an incident. It's a test. 3 days later, the Scourge returned. Not in force, in precision. A needle jump brought a destroyer-class Scourge vessel into low orbit. It launched no weapons. Instead, it dropped a spike drone. A data shard. A message. Naira stood in the decryption chamber as the message cracked open. Her face went pale as the first image flickered to life. It was a map of Elysius, covered in red, then Earth, covered in black. A voice followed, electronic, guttural. "You've answered once, you won't again." She turned to Greaves. "They want us to back down." "What's the response?" he asked. Naira smiled coldly. "Load the rail arrays, then we answer again." Captain Naira Eshin stood in the operations bay of the Honorfall, watching as the Elysians, what few remained, were brought aboard in waves. Children, elders, injured civilians whose cities had been crushed in silence. They moved slowly, guided by Terran medics in white armored suits, cradled in technology older than this species' recorded history. One child stopped beside Naira. He looked up trembling. Naira knelt. "Name?" The translator clicked. "K-Toll," the boy whispered. Naira placed her hand on her chest. "I'm Naira. You're safe now." The boy blinked. "You are? The war? The ones the stars fear?" She smiled just a little. "No, we're the answer." In the Central Strategic Core, Admiral Cade spoke to Earth Command via encrypted subspace. "We have the survivors, and we have confirmation of intent." This wasn't just destruction, it was messaging. They wanted us to find the ruins. They wanted us to hesitate. "Do we escalate?" Earth's strategic director asked. "No," Cade said. "We anchor. We show the galaxy what intervention means when done right." A pause. "And if they come again?" Cade's voice turned iron. "Then we do what humanity always does. We bleed and we build. And if we must, we burn back." In the Deliverance medbay, Imri sat beside Talin. "You're not soldiers," Talin said, "but you fight." "We respond," Imri replied. "You showed mercy." Imri's gaze drifted to the window, where Elysius burned in shadows beneath the orbiting fleet. "Mercy isn't weakness," she said. "Mercy is strength, wrapped in steel." Talin's hand, small and shaking, found hers. "We'll remember you." "No," Imri whispered. "Fight to live. That's how you remember us." Back in orbit, the Scourge ship's remnant signal pulsed again. Mocking, cryptic, as if testing Earth's resolve. Greaves looked to Naira. "Should we jam it?" Naira stared at the flickering data stream. "No, let it talk. Let it say whatever it wants. But when it comes back," she turned to her crew, "we answer with everything." The ceremony took place under the fractured skies of Elysius. What remained of the capital was silent, save for the wind whispering through the ruins. Terran engineers erected a simple platform beside the crater where the signal beacon had once stood. No banners, no flags, just a single transmitter broadcasting a memorial tone into the void. Admiral Cade stood before it, flanked by Elysians and Terran officers. "We do not speak today to honor war," he said, voice carried on multilingual speakers. "We speak to honor a voice, a plea, sent in desperation, and the courage to send it anyway." Talin stepped forward next. The translator glitched briefly as her body shifted luminescence with emotion. "We thought we were forgotten. We thought the stars had passed us by. But then you came, not with conquest, but with courage. Not as saviors, but as witnesses." Above, the Terran fleet remained in formation, silent giants watching over the planet. Inside the Honorfall, Captain Naira Eshin stood at her viewport. "Signal status?" she asked. Greaves replied, "Broadcasting continuous anthem loop. Old Earth tribute melody. Low frequency, long range. It's spreading further than we expected." Naira nodded. "Let it carry. Let it remind them all. The system wasn't abandoned." Greaves looked down at his console. "Admiral Cade's ordered a rotation. Half the fleet will stay. The rest return to Eridanus line. But he wants Honorfall to lead the shield." Naira turned. "Then we hold this line. Not as a wall, but as a promise. Elsewhere in deep space, a Scourge fleet regrouped, no longer probing, now planning. Inside their flagship, command nodes flickered with images of Earth's ships, their formations, their weapons. One word repeated in their decrypted stream: response. Not invasion, not provocation. Response. And they understood. This wasn't a war they had started. It was one they had invited. Back on Elysius, T'Lyn watched the sky as the anthem played. A soft chime, ancient and human. She turned to Imri. "What is this song?" Imri smiled. "It's called Ad Astra. It means to the stars." T'Lyn's eyes glowed faintly. "And we follow?" Imri placed a hand over her heart. "Together." The warning came not from sensors or scouts, but from light itself. Spectrographs monitoring the edges of Sector W9 began to flicker. Stars that had been burning for millions of years dimmed suddenly. Too fast, too unnatural. And Nera Ishin reviewed the report with a heavy frown. "Stars don't blink out like this. Not unless something eats the light." Greaves adjusted the display. "It's not gravitational. It's weaponized occlusion, like something is building a shadow." Admiral Cade's voice came through this command line, cold and clear. "They're not regrouping. They're preparing." Across deep space, dead stars signaled the passage of the Scourge. A path traced not through conquest, but through absence. No wreckage, no distress signals. Just silence, as if entire worlds had forgotten to exist. "This is the same pattern we saw during the fall of the Galaxy Reach," said strategic analyst Polvarun. "They didn't destroy those colonies. They erased them." Cade stood still, then gave the order. "Reinforce Elysius, activate intersystem mesh beacons, and double the shield drones around the outer rim." On Elysius, the mood had shifted. The anthem still played, but now it felt like a prayer before a storm. T'Lyn and Imri walked the half-rebuilt central corridor. "Do your people ever doubt?" T'Lyn asked. Imri thought. "We doubt everything. That's our nature. But when we act, when we choose, we do it with everything we are." "And now?" Imri looked to the stars, where something cold was coming. "Now we hold, because Earth promised." Suddenly, across every fleet vessel, a single pulse was received. A digital shriek. Encrypted, repeating. Then it decrypted. A voice. Monotone, not Scourge, not machine. "The fire you answered has reached the next forest. We are coming. You will forget you ever stood." Greaves looked up. "They're calling us the flame." Nera didn't blink. "Then let's show them how bright we burn." The meeting took place aboard the Vigilant Hope, with neutral gravity, minimal lighting, and no weapons permitted. Admiral Cade stood at the center of the round table. Opposite him, in an environment shell pulsing with bioluminescent signals, stood what was left of the Galaxy Council, silent refugees from a civilization thought erased. "We didn't expect your return," Cade said. "You weren't supposed to know we still lived," the Galaxy representative replied. "But you came because someone else whispered." "We don't ignore whispers," Cade answered, "especially from ghosts." Behind closed corridors, a diplomatic rush began. The Elysians sent envoys. The Galaxy offered coordinates of Scourge movements. Even council representatives, previously indifferent, now scrambled for alignment. The Scourge had crossed a line they didn't realize existed. And Earth had drawn that line with steel. Captain Nera Ishun read the draft treaty with raised brows. "Multi-civilization non-aggression pact," Greaves said, handing her a datapad. "Codified by Earth, protected by Earth, enforced by us," Nera finished. "We're not just defenders anymore. We're architects." T'Lyn entered, flanked by two Galaxy and a silent Eno priest. She placed a single crystal on the table. "This is what you saved," she said. "This is what stands behind every plea." Nera stared at the pulsing data crystal. "Then this is what we protect." The treaty was signed in vacuum, a symbol of shared breathlessness. No fanfare, just hands, and a promise that if the Scourge returned, they would not face a plea. they would face a wall. The Terran Warfleet didn't return to silence. It remained. Over Elysius, in quiet orbit, a constellation of defense, hope, and retribution. Not just ships, symbols, not just weapons, witnesses. The message had been sent, received, and answered. But what lingered now wasn't war. It was presence. The kind that changes galaxies. In the Hall of Renewal, Talin stood beneath banners of 12 civilizations, now joined by a 13th, the Sigil of Earth, a world carved in steel, circled by flame. Many sent pleas, she said, addressing the gathered delegates. One answered. When our skies fell, others watched. They moved. They convened. But Earth came. Her words echoed. They didn't ask permission. They didn't calculate benefit. They simply heard a voice and said, "This matters." Captain Nera stood at the edge of the rebuilt capital, looking out over Elysius's reborn horizon. Beside her, Greaves watched new towers rise. "They're rebuilding fast," he said. "They're building forward," she replied. "Do you think the Scourge will try again?" She nodded. "Yes, but they won't find the same world." He glanced at her. "And Earth?" She smiled faintly. "Earth remembers. Earth answers." In deep space, the stars turned slowly. And far beyond, where dark forces gathered in silence, new whispers spread that Earth had awakened. And that when someone cries out in the dark, there is an answer. Because sometimes the deadliest warfleet doesn't come for conquest. It comes for justice. And in doing so, it leaves something behind. Hope, mana,